Hi, this is Roslynn Eve, and we are doing shading or shadowing of a cylinder. So right there is the cylinder, and as soon as we put a background in here, there we go. Okay, so you can see that with the cylinder shape that the shadowing is there. And what direction is the light coming from? Now, we did touch on this in the previous video on shadowing a ball. So, is the light coming from this direction? The answer is no. So, is the light coming from this direction? The answer would be yes. It is coming and hitting this side. You can tell because it's the lightest side, and the darkest side is where the light isn't reaching. Okay, so, but is it exactly from that side? No, it isn't. And how do we know that? Because there is a little bit of light on the top here. And let's turn it into a tube. There you go. It's now a tube shape. So where is the light coming from? It's coming from about that angle. Let's go to here. So you can see that the light is hitting this side because it's the lightest, but it isn't straight on because a little bit of light is hitting the top edge there. Okay, and because it's hitting the top, it's also coming on an angle down in here and hitting the inside. So when you're doing objects like this, that is the opposite to the outside of the object. You see how it's lighter here, darker here, and it's the opposite inside? Okay, so that's how that works. So we'll get rid of that one. Now, let's turn this into a mug. Okay, so because this is the darkest side and the handle is on the darkest side, it's going to be darkest right in there. But let's add a shadow because right now it looks like the mug is floating in the air. So how do you make it look like it's sitting on the ground? Because it's blocking the light, it creates a shadow. So there's the shadow. If this wasn't actually flat, straight, cut across, and there was a little bit of a rounded lip on there, then you'd have a rounded bottom. So there could be a little thin shadow underneath that bottom edge. But in this case, because it's sheared right flat off, then so is the bottom. So you're only going to see it as it passes that halfway point. It starts to come out. But because we're showing diffused light in the room, in other words, it would be like sunlight coming in a window or a lot of lights on in the room, but coming from this side, because that's where the light is coming from. So the light is bouncing enough off of everything in the room that this is bending around the back of the cup. So it fades, the shadow fades as it is more light is hitting it. So the further away from the mug that you get. Okay, now this would be versus like, you know, when you're holding a flashlight, but better yet, one of those thin, you know, magic marker thick little pen lights where it has a really focused little beam. Well, then you would have just a high white spotlight there with a bit of diffused light coming from it, around it. So this could be all dark. The background could be all dark. See, it tells you, because the background has light, that it is a diffused light, or there is a lot of light coming from this direction over here. Okay, so because it's like that, the light will move around or bounce off of things and you will get some light going on back here. So as this moves, as the handle is moving more away from the mug, you're going to get more diffused light and light hitting it from overhead. You see, there's going to be some diffused light hitting that. That's why this is lighter out here than it is right in here. And that's why it's darker underneath, because it's still over the top more than it is like straight on. Okay, so this is the darkest, and this little edge is going to be the darkest because it's the furthest away from the light. Make sense? Of course. All right. Okay, one more thing. People will say, well, how do you get this? If you're drawing with pencil, or if you're doing charcoal, whether you're doing paint, however you want to do it, let's just put this in here. I put a whole bunch of little patches just to show you. So if you're blending with pencil, you do it really light and get heavier and heavier. Same with charcoal. But if you're doing it with paints or digitally, then you're going to be doing more of a smudge. So let's get a little closer in there so that you can see. This wasn't smudged perfectly, but from a bit of a distance there, you can see it was looking really good. But we could fine-tune that more if I was actually keeping this. This was only just done for this tutorial, and that's it. Okay, so let's go to this layer. Now there's a nifty little thing over here that looks like a finger pointed down at a surface and on a hand. Okay, so we're clicking that, and that's called the smudge tool. And let's knock that back to about 12. Okay, so what does this neat tool do? I did blend all these layers so that this is all on one layer here, for those of you that are familiar with Photoshop. But for those of you that are painting, well, then you've got these color layers that you've laid out there, wet, of course, and you're going to smudge them. So how that means blending. So however you want to blend it. You notice how my going back and forth over that's what I'm doing. I don't know if you can see my little cursor there, but basically I'm just moving the smudge back and forth over that line, that transition line, to try to soften it in. You see? Okay, so we'll go to the next one. See how I'm smudging it in? I'm just moving it back and forth, just going down that line there so it kind of blends in with the other one. You don't want to get moving it too far. And that's what you're going to do with paint. And you can, you know, use your brush and move it back and forth like that to try and get it blended together. Now, once I get it smudged this way, sideways, which it is now, maybe not perfectly, then I go up and down this way, and it doesn't matter if it, you know, moves a little bit one way or the other while you're going up and down, because that just helps to blend it in more, right? And the same with this next line, and you just keep going over it. So even though I'm just doing this once, now you're going to say, well, why don't you just do it to a larger degree? Okay, so let's make this, instead of 12% blending only a little bit percent, to blending a whole lot. Well, this is what happens here. See how you get this huge, and that's okay, but it's harder to control then, because you see how it just moves the whole thing, the whole color, way over. So yeah, you can go with a higher percentage, but then you have to be a little bit more cautious with what you're doing and how far you're moving your one color over onto the other color. You see what I mean? Because that's basically what you're doing, is you're moving the light back and the dark back over top of each other. So, and you want to be consistent again. And I'm controlling the size of the brush because that has an effect too, right? See what's happening now is it's harder to get that nice even blend here. And I'm getting a little more streaky and stuff now because I've got a bigger brush. Okay, so anyways, that tells you that's how you're doing it. So you're just blending it there, and it would be the same if you're drawing. You could smudge it a bit with an eraser or however, you know, a stump or all the things, you know, your own tools. Okay, so that's it for today, and I hope that that covered all the things that you would like to know about a curved object and one that has an opening in the top, because you do have to do it differently, right? Okay, so this is me. That's my Facebook page. I do have other tutorials there, and I also have some really interesting, it's all art links. So we've got like other video links that are really neat, like a glass garden and a tourist attraction that is an art, a whole big building that is fantastic inside that has like a art landscapes type of thing. It's like anyway, you got to see it. It's awesome. And then there's this is my name and how you spell it. So if you're looking for me on YouTube to watch my videos, this is the name that you put in the search box on YouTube, and then you'll see my videos coming up on the right. Now they do mix other people's stuff in amongst it, so if you want only mine, then you'll pick that big green dot with an R in it and click on that, and then you'll see only my videos. Okay, so I hope that this has been as good for you as it has been for me. You can always hit the like button if you liked it. And of course, if you would like more and you would like to be notified of my next video, then hit subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Okay, bye for now.